The Obama administration has, when it's engaged Iran, sort of used a carrot and a stick strategy. The sticks, of course, being economic sanctions, the carrots being civilian energy that they can use for civilian purposes. Well, nuclear energy they can use for civilian purposes. The question is, do you believe Iran has the right to civilian nuclear energy for power plants, hospitals, that kind of thing?
Iran is a signatory of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And the Non-Proliferation Treaty is a contract between non-nuclear nations and the 5 nuclear weapon states. Under the contract, a country such as Iran agrees to forswear all nuclear weapons research, any nuclear weapons-related programs, acquisitions of technology. In exchange for that abandonment of any nuclear weapons-related programs, they are guaranteed access to civilian nuclear technology. It is a contract. The Iranian regime has broken their side of that contract. Therefore, legally, under the NPT, they no longer have the right to civilian nuclear technology because they've broken the contract. I actually made this case in Vienna to the IAEA a couple of years ago. It's something that is, it's obvious to anybody who has studied the NPT, but in our willingness to bend over backwards to strike some kind of deal with a regime that is not interested in a deal, even George W. Bush said that they have a right to civilian technology. Under the NPT, they don't. Not anymore. Yes.
Mike, who are the key players making decisions? The reason why I asked you, I was born and raised in South America, and I moved here from Europe, and you had a picture there with Chavez, and and a lot of the countries that are considered part of the West. And even when you talk about who's investing in Iran, you talk about China, Germany, and other countries that are quite powerful and probably more powerful than we thought. So when it comes to why are we so worried and not other countries? It's an interesting question. Just want to try to gather your thought about who are the key players here, because I think unfortunately, for good or bad, for some people, the U.S. is no longer making or it's not seem to be the key player in making decisions worldwide. Well,
the Russia and China do not feel threatened by Iran because they have created the Iranian nuclear weapons program and their missile programs. So they are major suppliers. They're essentially on Iran's side in the strategic balance. Certainly, the Venezuela under Hugo Chavez does not feel threatened by Iran. They are a partner with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Germans are a special case. Germany has consistently, over the past 40 years, put commerce above any kind of strategic interest or strategic even cooperation with their own allies. During the Cold War, West Germany was selling strategic technology to East Germany and to the Soviet Union, even though it was forbidden under the COCOM regulations. So the Germans are a special case. But I think if you go just about anywhere else in Europe, you'll find a tremendous, and I just got back from Europe last night, okay? I got off the plane last night at 24 hours ago. You go to any country in Europe, they're tremendously concerned by the Iranian weapons program and by the regime. You go to any country in the Middle East.
Yeah, I'm not trying to minimize the concern, but the true action in making decisions, I'm not talking about military decisions or not. Sweden is probably going to be neutral. Norway is probably going to be neutral. When you talk about Italy or Spain, those countries do not have the power, or they have their own political problems themselves. When you talk about South America, you mentioned Venezuela. Same happens in Bolivia, Nicaragua, Argentina. So it seems to me that at the end, we're talking about 3-4 countries that are having the same position. I don't know it's 4, but obviously, it's not.
I don't know. There are 26 countries in the European Union, and of those 26, I would be willing to wager that 26 of them are actually concerned. Even Germany is concerned, but they continue to do counters.
They're
All
concerned, but
26
they're
are
not
concerned.
voting or making an effort in trying to, for example, why is it that there's no sanctions?
But they all voted those sanctions. You forget that at the United Nations. There were 5 UN Security Council resolutions condemning Iran. 3 of them include sanctions. So yes, there's a pretty broad-based consensus worldwide that the Iranian nuclear weapons program is a threat to world peace, period. So, look, those were voted out of the Security Council. In fact, Russia and China even agreed to those 5 Security Council resolutions. So even there, even Russia and China, Iran's strategic supporters, Iran's suppliers, major suppliers, have agreed that the regime is a threat and a nuclear weapons program is a threat. So I think the facts are a little bit different. You have another question up here?
Yeah. How do you see the link between Iran's nuclear weapon and invasion of Iraq? Because a lot of political talks argue today that Iran has been escalating its nuclear power since invasion of Iraq, believing that they might be the second target.
I think it's clear that Iran is hoping to, the regime is hoping to sanctuarize Iran from the U.S. attack by having nuclear weapons. And I think, if I were sitting in Tehran, that might be a good bet. But knowing that there's also Israel in the equation, it's not quite as good a bet because they're also painting a target on their country. They might be able to deter the United States, but I don't think they're going to be able to deter the Israelis.
Do you feel that the UN even has a Hawaiian influence and power in world affairs that they like to think they do, or is it more so just I almost want to say just a political propaganda?
I am not a great fan of the United Nations. My friend John Bolton said in jest, something that has been repeated so many times since then, to say he's insensitive and laughable, but when he said you could cut 10 floors off the United Nations building, it wouldn't make any difference. In many ways that's right. In other ways it's not right. The United Nations has a moral authority, which is undeniable. It is an extraordinarily corrupt organization. It's an organization which is dominated increasingly by an anti-American coalition, all right, and certainly an anti-Israeli coalition. The United Nations spends more time condemning Israel than it does condemning hunger, right? This is what you would think they would be concerned about, or other threats to world peace. But the United States has consistently turned to the United Nations under the Bush administration and under the Obama administration as a coalition building instrument. And to that extent, if they can help us to build a coalition to take serious action to prevent a nuclear armed Iran, it's a useful avenue to go.
So it's basically the old philosophy.
It's basically what?
So it's basically the old philosophy, keep your enemies close.
Yes and no. It's also that we have I believe our elected leaders have a moral obligation to exhaust all possible avenues before using force. And Thomas Jefferson said at the beginning of his presidency that sanctions were the only alternative between appeasement and war. And how do you get significant sanctions against Iran? You have to go through either the United Nations, or if they fail to live up to that responsibility, then you have to assemble a coalition of like-minded nations. But personally, I think that the only sanctions that will have any impact, this is my personal view, would be a total trade cut.